Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair agale, ni hao, churushumme, washmale, Ohio gozaimasu, guten Morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal? Hale shuma chotore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, swabi, abhalli kare aaya. Hoş geldin, anayo sayo, khuya mora, chi bato, chi hajot, kalimera, khairutan, and a very good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Haja Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hasan Khan, and Haja, here's the good news. So imagine that just last night, there was no air conditioner which was being turned on, and it wasn't even a fan which was turned on. And the weather over here in Islamabad is superb, it's getting fantastic, and it's like the perfect T-shirt weather, and I would want everybody to come down to Islamabad and enjoy the weather because it's lovely. I'm having a great day. What about you?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for introducing me. I think I'm really glad that you started to finally realize that weather has really changed around. But I think the body temperatures of every person is unique and respond differently to the weather, because I was having this sensation of weather which you are now describing for quite some time, for I think a couple of days or maybe a week for a long, because the last rain has really decreased the temperature, and Met Office is predicting that there is going to be another spell of the rain, and which will obviously bring and transition us towards the winters. And when we talk about winters, Shahzad, so a lot of people are fond of hoodies, right? This thing comes into mind, or maybe peanuts, because there are lots of peanuts, and there's this addiction with the peanuts. The more you eat, you are never satisfied or fulfilled in the first place, right? But I think our mothers are really angry at us because it creates a lot of what do you call the dirt around, right? And it's difficult to wipe it away and clean it away. Okay. So I think rich person can afford.
No, because what I was about to mention over here was that it's been almost.
But they're roasted, They're roasted, and I think they are very heavy in the first place, oily and heavy.
We'll talk about that, whether they are oily, whether they're heavy, whether you should consume them or not. But what I was about to share with our audiences was that it has been almost, I think, 3 winters that we haven't had pine nuts, because of how expensive they were. I think that's something which I'm looking forward to this winter. I've saved for the last 3 winters to make sure that this winter around I'll be having pine nuts. But ladies and gentlemen, this conversation is going to go on as the temperature is going to decrease over here in Islamabad and inside our studios. But first things first, let's go ahead and check the top stories. What top story are we sharing today, Haja? Please go ahead, take the lead.
Sure. So, World Maritime Day, a significant reminder of maritime safety, security and environmental conservation, is marked annually, urging nations to work together for sustainable maritime practices. Under the aegis of International Maritime Organization, this year holds special significance as we commemorate 50th anniversary of International Convention for Prevention of Pollution from Ships. Accordingly, this year's themes, MARPOL at 50, Our Commitment Goes On, is intended to pay tribute to our efforts under the IMO, which is International Maritime Organization's long history of protecting the environment from pollution through the impact of shipping via robust regulatory framework and emphasis on its ongoing commitment to prevention of our oceans from pollutions. Pakistan Navy stands at the forefront to conserve the maritime environment. In alignment with the MARPOL principles, we have instituted measures to curtail emissions, enhance energy efficiency, and in the earnest implement pollution prevention strategies. Our ongoing efforts against maritime pollution bear testimony to our unwavering commitment. And I think, Shahzad, it's very important that we protect our seas also from the pollution, because we've seen that how because of the pollution, how because of the human activity and all of the litter that we are dumping into the ocean, coral reefs are being damaged, and coral reefs are the backbone or the support system of the ocean. And we will be, I think, extremely surprised to know that how much this entire world is interconnected, right? So if we damage the oceans, we are also damaging ourselves, we are also damaging the earth, we are damaging the environment, and that will come back to reflect on us, because there's a very famous adage of the English which says, what goes around comes around, right?
Thank you so much for alluding to it in such a beautiful manner, because certainly we really need to put our heads together towards the
True.
aqua ecosystem. And for everybody who's out there, like we've been talking about climate change and global warming, I think there will
Right.
be a time when we'll certainly have to talk about how polluted our oceans are getting, and it's a global comment. Just like we
Yes.
look at the sun, just like we look at the moon, I think oceans and the water we have or we are surrounded by is a
Right.
global comment, and we really need to take responsibility that too globally. But now coming down to where what we really need to take responsibility of. Imagine that every now and then what we talk about is success. Most of the time, whenever you're going to talk about or whatever motivational speakers you're going to get, they'll always talk about how you need to be successful, how you need to be a member of the 4 a.m. club and whatnot.
Yes.
But imagine what happens is that that once alhamdulillah you're successful, you're doing what you wanted to do in your life, rather to achieve that success, you might have forgotten how important it was for you to stay healthier to enjoy that success. And I think that's one pivotal point which I believe is imperative. We really need to talk about it, that most of the time what happens is that we forget about our health and then we just focus on the amount of money which is coming into our bank accounts, makes us happy for a bit of time, and then eventually, unfortunately, you end up in a hospital spending all of that money which you built, which you made, and that's something which shouldn't really be happening. So to talk about that, I think one of the most important components of our human body is our heart.
That's
And
true. And that's an organ I think we cannot completely in its entirety understand that, because there's so many dimensions of the heart, right? So often in Quran we hear this verse that the contentment of the heart lies in the zikr or in the remembrance of God,
Allah,
right? So there's so many elements of the, I would say, the strengthening of your heart, the spiritual element, the physical element, the mental element and whatnot. And when we talk about the oceans, when we were talking about the World Maritime Day, I think there's one important element which WHO also mentioned is the One Health, right? The health of animals, the health of environment, the health of humans, they are all interlinked in the one trajectory, because if someone is suffering, you can feel the effects of that onto the entire environment in the first place,
so
right?
how can we keep a check on our heart health, ladies and gentlemen, is the kind of conversation we will be having today. And for everybody who's out there, please make sure that you stay tuned, because we have some worthy guests over here inside the studios amongst us. Number one, he happens to be a professor, doctor, he happens to be the recipient of Hilale Imtiaz, Sitara Imtiaz. He happens to be a cardiologist himself. He's Professor Dr. Major General Retired Farhan Tayyib Saab. Hello sir, Assalamu Alaikum. Good morning. How are you feeling today?
I'm fine, absolutely.
How's your heart, sir?
My heart is okay. Not too bad.
Alhamdulillah.
I think it will be fine if we start talking about Dil Ki Baatein, right, more
Yeah,
often.
दिल की
So,
बातें तो फिर दिल से ही हो सकती है. And alongside him, we're very lucky that we've been joined by a cardiologist once again, and he happens to be Dr. Umar Idris. Mufti Saab. Hello, Mufti Saab. Assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum salam. I'm feeling excellent. Thank you for having me once
Well,
again.
that's wonderful. How's your heart health?
Fairly good, I guess.
Really good. That's nice. I think everybody needs to keep a check. So to begin with,
Right.
on very basic terms, what I would like to ask you is, Professor Saab, that I'll move on to you. When we say heart health, what is routine good heart health? So if we are to talk about it, how should I be feeling if I know, or even if I'm unaware that my heart is in a good condition, it's thumping, it's doing well? How would I know that, as a layman, that okay, my heart's doing good?
I mean, if you are doing regular exercise and you're feeling normal, if you're running around and having no symptoms, no shortness of breath, no chest pain, and you do not have risk factors and you regular exercise, then your heart is okay.
right. And also, Shahzad, we witnessed this trend that South Asians are more prone to suffering the heart diseases in the world. And we would like to inquire, why is it just an assumption, or is there any medical research behind it? Why is that so, right? So, Dr. Mufti, over to you. Do you think that the South Asians are more prone to the heart diseases in the world? Why is that so?
Definitely so. I mean, when we look at research and everything else, they've looked at South Asian populations even when they move abroad.
Right.
So you take the Guyanese population that was in India, the subcontinent, they've moved mainly and are living now in South America, Brazil area. They have the highest preponderance of cardiac disease across the world.
Okay, that's right.
And that is from the genetic component that we have as Southeast Asians. So across the board, we are at a very high risk, and that's probably, obviously genetics has a role to do with it, diet, lifestyle,
Hypertension, anxiety,
everything across the
depression.
board.
I
and
think
then
everyone is prone to anxiety and hypertension because of the fact that the sort of lives that we are living, right? So this is such a high pressure life, I would say. It's a very fast paced life. People have lots of pressure to earn money, and I mean, obviously life was not that much complicated during our ancestors' time, but obviously that's an also assumption that I am making. But we would like to throw this question to our worthy professor here. So Mufti Sahab, is it a worrying sign that we are more prone to our heart diseases, and if so, what is wrong in our lifestyles that make us more prone to such sort of diseases?
Well, a couple of things in the younger generation nowadays is that most of the kids and the adolescents are mainly spending time on an iPad, an iPhone, or whatever smartphone, computers, gaming systems. They're not out there. They're not out getting the routine exercise that we used to get back in the day. You used to see kids running around the block, riding their bike, playing cricket, football, whatever, what have you. They're losing that exercise, and that has gone on through time, along with the westernization of our culture. We have the Western diet that's come into play. You have certain fast food restaurants, KFC, McDonald's, that are across in every sector here in Islamabad.
They will be chasing you from today on.
They will be chasing me. I still eat there, by the way, KFC and McDonald's, just to let you know.
Exactly, but in addition to this, obviously where we do agree to this, that that our lifestyle has become so stagnant that we are just sitting down and eating that fried food and whatnot. There's one more thing, Professor Saab, which I would want to talk about, and that is that if we go back in time, if I talk about my grandfather, 1970s and 80s, there was the time when heart attack was actually associated with the top tier of the society. The Amiron ke saath ke ji, Amiron ki bimari, heart attack, unfortunately. And now what we see is that, maybe any segment of the society, we do see that the prevalence is there. So is it just the sedentary lifestyle, or do you think that we have a predisposition to such illnesses because we happen to be South Asians?
I think there are multiple factors. In fact, first one is the migration from rural to urban areas. Once, when in your grandfather's time, people used to walk or ride on a bicycle for 10 miles just to go to school. On the other hand, now our kids, even they have to go to 100 meters, they would use a car. That's the change in lifestyle. Secondly, as Dr. Saab has alluded to, is that it's a change in the diet. We are eating a lot of bad diet, high fat diet, and we do not exercise. Then another factor is the diabetes. Our country has a very high incidence of diabetes. In fact, it's one of the world's highest incidence of diabetes in our population, and it is going up. It is again because of lack of exercise. People are eating bad and they are not exercising. All these factors have contributed to very early incidence of acute heart attack. Like in our part of the world, heart attacks occur about 10 years earlier than in the Western world. And most of our patients are around in mid-40s once we treat them for heart attack.
Right, Dr. Saab, also because you are an expert in the field and you are probably well versed with such sort of conditions, but do you feel that these climatic changes also affect our cardiovascular activities? And when we talk about the generation or the people who are more vulnerable or prone to the cardiovascular diseases, can you shed light on the demographic, which are the population, especially when we talk about in Pakistan, about the gender or about maybe the marginalized communities who are more prone to such sort of conditions?
It used to be, the fact that it was a disease of the rich people. Now, not anymore.
Right.
Because now the effects of richness have trickled down. People are having cigarette smoking. The cheaper the cigarette, the bad it is. A lot of smoking in the lower socio-economic group. Then availability of transport, this mechanical transport, the lack of exercise. The low socio-economic groups are also having very high incidence of ischemic heart disease.
Right. And now,
and as far as climate is concerned, I think temperature as such does not affect heart attack, because we have the lowest incidence of heart disease in the world is in the Eskimos, the very, very cold area. They live in a very cold area.
Right. So Dr. Umar, coming back to you, so we've talked about the heart attacks and diseases. So do you think people who are more prone to the heart or cardiovascular diseases, exercises does make an impact in their life? And since Dr. Saab mentioned about the smoking here, right? So there's this new phenomena which has hit, and I think new generation is so much invested into that, which is vaping, right? So what sort of literature in the medical field indicate, is it deadly, in terms of having a healthy heart heart, and what sort of impact does it have on your cardiovascular health in the first place?
Well, those are two very good questions. First off, on the exercise component, exercise does make a huge impact on your heart health.
Okay.
People who are exercising on a daily basis or at least 5 times a week, for the recommended daily exercise amount is around 30 minutes a day. That can just be a brisk walk, enough that you're breaking a sweat. But people who actually do that, they get symptoms sooner than people who are actually sedentary. And then once you're sedentary, they get the chest pain when they're sitting there, and that is catastrophic at times.
Right.
So when you exercise, you get symptoms sooner, so then it makes you more alert. You may go to the physician sooner to be seen.
Right.
As for vaping, vaping is honestly just as bad, if not even worse, than actual cigarettes. So there have been certain studies done in the West,
Right.
particularly that show that certain types of vapes actually have significantly harmful chemicals, that it actually damages not only the heart but the lungs as well, much worse than cigarettes, because cigarettes do have the filter and everything else, but vaping is a trend that's caught on
Right.
across the board, and
Yes.
we
There are
need
competitions taking place, globally.
Right.
Yes.
How much smoke can you exhale? And to be very
That's
honest,
right.
I believe that people really need to learn from here onwards that, how you really need to kind of not do that,
Right.
because, Dr. Saab has said it himself that, if it's not worse, it's actually just like you're smoking a cigarette. That's
Correct.
true. And in addition to this, now let's build up towards, the sort of illnesses which are very common over here. So Professor Saab, I'll come back to you now. Unfortunately, we live in a zone where we were not very economically flourishing, unfortunately, and the kind of households we have, beti ki shadi, bete ki padhai, and all of that. So
Stresses,
there's a
yeah.
lot of stress. So what happens with that stress is, because individuals are not trained to accumulate it in a way, so they end up having panic attacks. Now, with panic attacks, I have seen what people go through is that that their heartbeat is going to increase, and it's
Right.
going to increase at a level where they cannot control it. Then there's anxiety, and what they do is that they do not go to the doctor most of the time, and they're like, okay, it's going to settle down itself, or there's self-medication. Can a panic attack lead you towards a heart attack if not dealt with time?
Actually, panic attacks are more common in young people and especially ladies. And once they get into stress, that can lead to very high blood pressure. Like in times of panic attack, we have seen a simple panic attack can lead to a blood pressure of as high as 220 by 120 millimeters of mercury.
Okay.
So with that high blood pressure can actually cause complications, which can be brain hemorrhage or even heart attack. But normally, as panic attacks are more common in young people, they do not actually lead to heart attack commonly. But if a panic attack gets into an old people, then old patient, then he's at high risk.
So he or she really needs to go to the doctor as soon as possible.
Yeah, panic attack is a disease, and it's a form of mild psychiatric illness. They should go to either a cardiologist who is who knows how to treat the panic attacks, or he go to a psychiatrist to get.
So what is a heart attack then? Okay, so that's panic attack. If
Right.
unfortunately you have higher blood pressure, it can lead to other illnesses as well.
Heart
But what is a
attack
heart
is
attack?
a
And
very
symptoms, yes.
serious condition which generally develops very suddenly. You know that our heart is supplied by 3 arteries. One on the left side, one goes to the right side, one goes in the back of the heart. If the blood flow in any artery gets stopped because of formation of a clot, which results because of a wound in the artery, there is sudden stoppage of blood flow to that particular area of the heart, and that leads to a heart attack. And as a result of that, there is a period of very high degree of instability. And that first hour of occlusion of the artery can lead to death suddenly.
Right. So, Dr. Umar, now coming to you, since the theme of the World Cardiovascular Day is use your heart and know your heart, right? So, when we talk about knowing our heart and when we talk about the cardiovascular diseases or the heart attacks, obviously, like Shahzad mentioned before, that we are living in a zone or the area where people do not have access to universal health care, right? And obviously, it's a very expensive treatment. So, what sort of precautionary measures do you recommend in order to avoid ourselves from getting into such sort of disease, and how can we make sure that the access towards the cardiovascular treatment can be made more universal and accessible,
And
especially to the marginalized populations, right?
Well, first off, I think for us to know about our own heart health, you have to take an interest in your own health to begin with.
Right.
So people should actually look at what they're ingesting, what food they're intaking.
And I think
The-
body always responds to you if there's something wrong inside you.
Correct.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I mean, if you monitor your diet, you have an appropriate exercise regimen, you're also keeping yourself interested mentally as well, because mental aspect has a lot to do with it as well as emotionally as well. But so you need to create a daily routine where you're appropriately doing the things that you need to do, taking care of everything, trying to avoid excess stress.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you should go for your routine checkups. So if you're of a certain age, the recommended age usually is around 20 years of age or to 25 years of age. We usually recommend getting at least a fasting cholesterol level. So get a fasting lipid profile, check what your cholesterol is. With that, you can check your sugar level as well, do it random, do it fasting as well, so you can get a better look to see if it's slightly elevated. Maybe at that point you make some dietary or lifestyle changes to actually for the betterment of your health.
Right.
So you do those certain things, and then monitor your blood pressure. Check it every once in a while. I'm not saying check it every day, but if you just want to check it routinely, maybe once a week, once a month even, just so you get a better look of where you're at. Avoid certain things with the diet, like avoid excess caffeine intake, avoid excess soft drinks or cold drinks here, because those also lead to a lot of issues, particularly like Red Bull, excess caffeine, Sting, and all these other things.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. So, which is why, at this point in time, what I'll do is that I'll share my diet with you, and people can relate with it, because Alhamdulillah, over here in Pakistan, everybody's got similar diets. So earlier in the morning, it's a glass of milk with almonds and cashew nuts and dates. Then there's a desi ghee paratha. Then there's a half-fried egg, and there's a cup of tea. That's it. Number two, there's during the day there's a brown bread sandwich with any kebab or whatever is available, but it's in an air fryer, so
That's
making sure that we're healthy. And towards the end of the night, so there's somewhere, because for the people who are athletes who go to the gym, there's pre-workout, there's caffeine in it. So that's probably the one cup of coffee in the morning, one probably at night or probably somewhere during the day. And then towards the end, salan roti, and with salan, how much ghee our ammi puts in it, yeah, so
Oil,
do you think that it's a good diet to have for your heart health?
So there's a few things with that
And
diet.
protein shake as well, yeah.
So the morning, the cup of milk and the nuts and everything else sounds perfect. I would, for certain things like the desi ghee at times is a little excessive. At times from the heart health, we usually recommend olive oil to be used more so than desi
How
ghee.
can हम महंगाई से भी हो?
But the
दुश्मनी
issue is, in the end, if you get to the point where you're actually done damage to your heart, that's where the cost is going to be a lot more. Not only just financially, but physically as well.
Yeah.
So we need to look at it from that perspective. The most important thing in one's life is obviously family and health.
Right.
So you have to in order to take care of your family, you have to be healthy.
True.
So that's where you should put your focus.
All right, well, that's wonderful. So protein shakes, for people who go to the gym?
That's fine. As long as you see people who work out, such as yourself, you're working out on a daily basis. I mean, that is fine because you're using it just from that standpoint. But people who are using it just to bulk up from that standpoint and not going to a gym, not burning the excess calories, that's not advisable.
Wonderful, which is why I'm going to come back to Professor Saab. Now, Professor Saab, over here, the challenge we face on daily basis is that we do not know the amount of exercise we're supposed to do.
Right.
Because what happens is that, we might feel it because of that pre-workout that we have taken. There's a lot of caffeine in it, and it gives you an adrenaline rush, and you're like, okay, I can lift up as much weight as I can. But somewhere down the line, we are burdening our heart with that amount of exercise that we are doing. So what is the right amount of exercise that one should do, where we're not burdening, but rather making our heart healthier?
Right, as the doctor has already mentioned, that about 30 minutes of exercise every day is okay for the heart. That means about 150 minutes, 180 minutes of exercise every week is enough.
Okay.
Then like most of people are carrying mobile phones these days, they have what application, they are counting steps. So anything more than 4,000 steps is okay.
Okay.
Anything around 10,000 steps is better than 4,000 steps. 20,000 steps is the best.
Okay.
Anything more than 20,000 steps can actually do some harm.
All right.
But then you have to train yourself regularly. Now there was a concept that you have to go to the gym and do exercise every day. No, it's not recommended anymore. Even short period of exercise, like even 10 minutes exercise is okay for the heart. You can break your exercise time with 10 minutes 5 times a day, 2 times a day. Even those people who are sitting there for the desk jobs, if they get up every 5 or 10 minutes, take a few steps, even that is better than doing nothing.
Wow.
Right.
So even minimal degree of exercise can actually help reduce cardiac heart attack incidence
Right.
and mortality. The exercise, the more you do it, better it is.
Wonderful.
Right, and I think this brings us to very important point which Dr. Saab has very succinctly put it out there, that is that how much the element of mobility has reduced in our lifestyles, right? So earlier on our ancestors used to walk a lot, they used to consume food, but then they also made sure that they were burning calories, right? Right, of course, and now we pay, I don't know how 30-40,000 in the gyms to make sure that the element of mobility is integrated back into our lives. But Dr. Saab, one important aspect that we would like to discuss here, and please tell us and enlighten us if this is a myth or not. And I think this is close to Shahzad's heart, is desi ghee ka paratha, right? So
twice a week at least,
yes,
thrice a week or twice a week.
Of course, of course. So I mean, do you recommend having paratha every day, and that for what age group? And after certain age group, do you recommend having that paratha again and again? Because obviously we can't stay away from paratha. It is so yummy.
Right, your food intake has to match with your degree of physical exertion.
Okay.
Like I'm going to sit in my office all day long, I should not eat paratha.
Okay.
On the other hand, if I'm going to go into the work, into the field and plow or do some mechanical job, I need paratha.
Okay.
Right.
And then this desi ghee, this carries a lot of cholesterol.
Okay.
Cholesterol is not good for the heart.
Okay.
If you want to have a paratha, it's better to be prepared with oil.
Right.
And then
Okay,
doctor mentioned olive oil. Olive oil is very good for eating, and it's not good for deep frying because it evaporates. So olive oil for eating, like for either dressing or with salads, and then for paratha, use oil and match your physical activity with your intake.
That's wonderful. And sir, one last question from both of you gentlemen, and that is that God forbid, if somebody is really unaware of their heart health and all of a sudden they feel that they're having a heart attack, what do you think they need to do, if it comes down to self-medication before they reach the hospital? What do you think any individual should do?
Most important thing is that they should be aware that you can have a heart attack, and you have to seek medical advice early, as soon as possible. Go to the doctor, have an ECG done. Until the time you have gone to the doctor, if you have tablet of aspirin in your house, take a tablet of aspirin.
And they say Angicid probably, I think.
Angicid only if you're carrying one, and then if you take Angicid, then you should not walk, you should rest.
Okay.
Because if you take Angicid and you continue walking, you can have a, fall in the blood pressure suddenly, and you can drop down.
God forbid if it feels like as if you're having a heart attack, if it's only like you feeling that you're having a heart attack, but it's not a heart attack, then how would Angicid react to you?
Angicid normally dilates the heart arteries and of the brain. It can cause mild headache, and if you keep standing, it can lead to a sudden drop in blood pressure.
Okay.
That's it.
Right.
Wonderful.
Once you try, avoid using Angicid.
Aspirin.
If you're not a known patient of heart disease.
Okay.
Aspirin is much safer.
Okay, so
not
you
a
take
disease.
a tablet of aspirin, you sit down in the car, and that's it. You go.
But
to
you
the
have
doctor.
a chest pain and the center of the chest and felt like a pressure, heaviness, you should go to a doctor.
Okay.
Don't delay it, because these days excellent treatment is available if you go to the doctor, and the damage can be undone.
Alhamdulillah.
Right.
Wow, wonderful. Dr. Saab, what will you say?
I would say the 100%. I completely agree with Professor Tayyip.
Because what happens over here is that unfortunately, if we go through such a
Right.
condition, your mother will come with with a glass of water.
No.
Somebody will come with something as well. Pani piya deo, dawai khwa deo.
Honestly, you can drink
problems.
water, but take an aspirin, and
Right.
then most people don't have Angicid with them, and unless you're an actual known heart patient, you may carry it around. But then one important thing is seek, as Professor Tayyip said, seek medical attention immediately. Go to the nearest hospital
Right.
and get an ECG. And my advice would be, do not drive yourself.
Okay.
Because you never know what could happen when you're driving. If it is actually a heart attack, you can actually be in serious
Out of
jeopardy for
control.
not only yourself but others on the road.
True.
So get someone to drive you to the nearest hospital.
Wonderful.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Dr. Saab. Thank you so much, Professor Saab. for
And
being
ladies and
here.
gentlemen, if you are going to be in love, certainly that's going to increase your heart health. I didn't really wanted to be cheeky with Professor Saab and Dr. Saab, so I think I'm going to be cheeky with my audiences today. If you're in love, if you have somebody who loves you truly, without, demanding anything, please make sure that, rest assured that your heart health is going to be great as well. But with that, we're actually heading out towards a short break. We are going to be joined by somebody who certainly followed a passion their heart was vouching for. Who that lady is or who that person is something that we will be figuring out in the next segment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning.
Welcome back, and before going on to the break, we were having Dil Ki Baatein, right? And that was an interesting conversation, and now we are going to introduce someone in the studio who has so many feathers in her cap, I would like to say. And she has done a lot, and obviously she's associated with the same field that we are in, that is the media. And how was her journey, and what were the challenges that she faced, and how did she evolve with time as a person in the media, is something that we are really interested to inquire, because this is a topic which is very also close to my heart, because obviously I work in that same field. So we are very glad that we have been joined by someone who happens to be an anchor person. She's also a journalist, and she's also happens to be an executive producer, and she has such a long list of I would say titles to her name, and we will explore it. So we are very glad that we have been joined by Rida Saifi. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Walaikum assalam, and thank you so very much for giving a very beautiful introduction.
I think you truly deserve that, and we are keen on exploring, your journey. How did you start it, and how was it so far, and how did you see the role of media changing? Because now it's more digital media that we are now focusing, right? And broadcast, I think, is in jeopardy, and I think Shahzad and I are a bit threatened by this new evolution. But obviously, we have to change and adapt with the changing times.
And before you actually speak anything or say anything about yourself, there is only one question which I wanted to ask, and that was that you happen to be an anchor person, an executive producer. You started off your career as an associate producer. Was it because you wanted to do it, or there was lack of resource with that channel that you were working in?
Okay, so coming along, so many questions at the same time. But yes, first of all, I would like to say that I am feeling very, very, happening and very energetic coming in this program.
Thank
while
you
I
so
was
much.
coming, because it actually refreshed my memory when I was doing morning show as well. There was a time when I was doing morning show, and I remember in 2017 we started doing news-based morning show, the same pattern which you are doing, and you both are doing it beautifully, I must say. So that really refreshed my memory at that time, and it brought me to that. So this was the time that I loved, because I am a morning person myself.
Wow.
When I was getting the evening program, which is called the current affairs program, generally in Pakistan, and as you know, so I was very much reluctant at that time that, oh no, I can't do it, because I'm not a late night person, and I love to I love to get up early in the morning, and I was telling my bosses, no, please don't do this with me, and they were like, no, you have to do it. I was like, but this is something like I mean, I can't do it. They said, no, you will do it, we know it. So he trusted on me, and then when he gave it to me, and now we are into it. But generally, if somebody asked me today as well that what would you like to do, so I always say that morning show, because morning show is something like, that is a pure vibe to do with yourself.
And thank you so much for saying that, because there's another question now, and that is that because I prior to this one, I've asked her already that was it lack of human resource in the channel. So imagine that she was working with one of the most amazing prominent hosts of that time. And she happens to be Maya, right? So imagine, so one day Maya didn't show up, and your producer was like, okay, why don't you do it? Did that happen like that, or was it like an original choice in the first place that, okay, so I'm going to explore more avenues? Because when we speak of women in media, most of the time, it's not really a current affair show. It's usually a morning show, or a child toast type of a show. So how did you transcend, and how did you end up doing a morning show?
I mean, this is a very good question, Shahzad. Actually, when I came into the industry, I was a child artist. Well, firstly, I was doing the kids program. Like I was doing some programs of different private TV channels. And when I was doing that, I was I was school going kid. So that time I had a plan in my mind that, okay, I wanted to go on a screen, but before that, I need to learn the things which are happening off camera as well, because once you don't know, what happened these days actually, when we see the short term life of a people, like people come on a screen, unfortunately, no offense, like people come on a screen and they go back in a very short time. And why this happens? Because they don't know how the system actually works. They don't know the manner of working, like how to actually put yourself comfortable and easy in the system, because they come on the screen directly.
The competitive competitiveness of the
yes,
industry.
people just say anything
Right.
to them and they just went off. So it's like when I was coming, so I had this plan in my mind that I need to learn the things step by step so that I could be very refined, you can say, and very much pretty good in my thing, so that nobody complains or nobody can point out
कोई
me that,
शिकायत ना करे,
oh,
हाँ।
okay,
कि
yeah.
रिदा ये ठीक नहीं है।
Huh, you know, you're doing this or you don't know anything. I mean, I mean, sometimes I feel bad when I hear when especially when women come into our field and they hear this on set from their fellows or you know bosses ultimate, so they say that, oh, you don't know this thing, oh, you are not doing this thing good, or this is not like it, isko to kuch pata hi nahi hai, like something like that way.
But I
So-
think it's a process. Everybody goes through it as well.
So you know you need to learn few things, and gradually I did that I went into the system. I did I was associate producer. I was like doing research and content as well. I did coordination as well at the same time for some time for the guests. So, you know, these all factors made me strong and made me to come on this you know product as a product on screen finally.
So what
it's
you
not-
like मैं रिदा के शो की कोऑर्डिनेटर बात कर रही हूँ, हिना तो आप पहुंची नहीं है अभी तक, रिदा पूछ रही है आपका। Did you do that? Did you do that ever?
No, but this really helps you. Actually, at times, people when come on the screen, they don't have good connections and PR. And certainly, if you're coming along with the process, that really helps you a lot, actually.
That's
And I really suggest to the newcomers who really actually watching your program in the whole world, that they must understand and listen that come through a process, so that you must know how the system is
And
working.
that's very essential for a producer, and which is why, you know, over here at BTV, ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you that there's only one king of PR, and that's Mr. Jamshed Sultan. You know, there's no doubt in it. Yes.
That's true, and he's very good with networking. But Rida, let's talk about something I think which has been talked about a lot, especially in the media industry, and which is so there's this perception as a woman in the media that you know you are given the soft topics in the first place, right? Or you are expected that you can speak or deal with the soft topics in a more professional manner, right? So hard news or hard topics, it does not very naturally comes to women. So do you find ever this thing in your careers, or maybe you know your colleagues around you or workplace around you, or you get this impression in the first place that you know they are not giving you that sort of hard topics or hard how do I put it,
Or whenever you know there's a worthy guest, you know, so they'll give it to some other news
more
anchor or
current
another anchor person.
affairs, or I mean international affairs,
happens
all of our
everywhere.
topics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that in the first place? Because I do feel that sometimes women are undermining the favor of men, because
Come
men,
on.
I think
I mean, not with your work experience.
Okay,
At least.
Okay, so I do think that generally there is this perception that men are good at reading news, or they are more invested into the news as compared to women out there. And I do feel that they are more preferred as a choice for the news or hard topics or the current affairs
Then
in the first
we
place.
wouldn't have had Kamal
Oh.
Nasir Saiba as the most legendary anchor
I
person
mean,
and news telecaster. Yes.
let her answer in the
Yes,
first
yes.
place. A man is talking, let her answer. Okay.
Talking.
Okay, I mean, I think this could be a one factor which you are discussing, because today's our topic is about women in the media, as
Of course.
in keeping that in a view. But honestly speaking, alhamdulillah, I never faced this kind of
Okay.
stuff
That's
ever in
fine.
my you know journey,
Thank you.
because my bosses, like, always they're very supporting, and they always I mean they don't trust on, I guess, men anchors rather on preferring me, that they, okay, if somebody is happening like something which is very tough task, so he always say, okay, send Rida to it, because we know that she can handle better than them. So in this manner, I always feel privileged that I by the blessing of Allah, that I always found good bosses in this manner. But yes, there are other factors which actually women are facing in the industry, and I feel that is not enough. Not in Pakistan, I feel, because actually I covered a lot foreign affairs as well, and since 2018 I was in abroad. Like for 2 years I was in Turkey for assignments, in Syria I was
Wonderful.
there, I was in China. So I covered very difficult you know assignments which are very challenging as well at the same time, because when you go into the war area, that is
Yes.
very difficult
Conflict
to
reporting
cover.
is very
It is
difficult.
not easy.
Exactly, which is why, you know, let's take our conversation to from how you made sure that you're going to evolve from a morning show host to, you know, being on the prime time, making sure that you're going to
Right.
talk, be a hardcore journalist. Now, when we come down to journalism, you know, it's a very tricky gray area over here in Pakistan. And unfortunately, we have seen that how with changing regimes,
Yes.
we have seen that there will always be few journalists who are going to be the favorite of the people, and then there will be a few ones taking the back seat. And it's because, not because of the journalists themselves, but rather the media houses they work for. Because those high-ups certainly have their own agendas, you know, their own thought processes, and they want to work with some governments, they do not want to work with some governments. So it's always a pro or an against sort of an ideology. So how you as a journalist do feel that, you know, for K21, because your program is Newsline, and it goes on here somewhere around 8 to 9,
Yes,
right?
8
Yeah,
PM.
that's true. My
Yes.
hard work, man, pays off. So how do you feel at times on different occasions, multiple occasions, whenever you're covering a story? Do you get instructions most of the time that, you know, Rida, you know, I trust you, that's why you are here on the show, you know, please make sure that you do not cross this line.
I mean, this happens regularly, I guess.
Thank you so much for being honest, at least. Yes.
I mean, this happens regularly when we are dealing with the guest, and you know, now the guest never comes on the, even not on the call of coordinators sometimes, you know. There is, because, and even on the basis of TV channels, now they come on the face of anchor. Usually, most of the
Because
journalists.
it's always us.
Yes, because they say, okay, okay, this, who's the anchor? Okay, this one, no, I don't want to come. Okay, yeah, I can come. And
Yeah.
then when they come, even they say, who is in the panel? Who is coming? The other guest from other party, and you know, they are always like into it. And what is the topic? Okay, don't, please don't make me sit with that person, or don't make me sit with that person. This is and I don't understand what kind of you know, what kind of attitude this is, because at the same time when we see them off the camera, they're shaking the hand, they're
But
hugging
that's a
and saying
partial
that-
answer of my
Okay,
question. That's a partial answer of my question.
Also, Shahzad, because this is linked to your question in the first place, because how do you see the role of journalism evolving in the coming times? Because like Shahzad mentioned, so there are lots of agendas, and I think people are now aware of the fact that how news is being made and what sort of news is being projected.
And narratives are being built.
And we think the people are very silly. They're actually not. They're very smart, and they have evolved because of the media consciousness and the media literacy that is out there. And I think this is becoming a huge problem, especially for the journalism houses inside Pakistan, because they're not changing with the changing times in the first place, right?
Absolutely
I think they should
agreed.
invest in the digital a lot. They are not doing it. They're
Yes.
just focusing on the broadcast. They're just focusing on the, I would say, traditional media. So how do you think, you know, because obviously they have to jump to the digital.
I'm very
Digital
sorry, we
is
do
the
know
new
that it's a
normal.
morning show, but it's all right, right?
Yes.
No, you're talking absolutely right, and I must tell you, being an honest, as I'm giving you very honest answers today. So this is
Feel
also
free, yeah.
So this is
Only
all.
today, or usually?
No,
you give
usually I
away
do
honest
like this,
answers?
by the way, on a lighter note.
Politically correct,
But
yeah.
but you know, I think we should be very honest on the screen, so that people come to know that they are okay. They are also very real. They are not becoming very artificial or something like that. You know, right now, if I'm talking about myself, I am earning more. With the digital
Yes,
and
yes.
platforms, my digital platforms and social media, rather than what I'm getting from my TV channel.
Yes, that's true. That's
And that I
That's
mean,
very
this is-
I think,
discouraging.
this
I
is-
think the TV
this
channel
is-
really needs to listen to this.
this is what I'm telling you. So because we all know that what are actually happening in electronic media on TV channels, we all, because is now into the same profession, so we know very well that how the people are dealing with this, because you know the charm of electronic media is now fading away, and the digitalization and social platforms are becoming the main source, and they are taking
Right.
the place in of
Vlogging, yes.
electronic
Yes.
media. They are taking the place, but unfortunately this is an issue that we are not understanding.
That's
this.
true.
And even though what is a problem what I see with the Pakistani channels, that they are actually just busy in their domestic politics. They are
Yes.
not actually behaving like the other
Why is
TV
that so?
channels. TV channels are behaving in the world.
Yeah.
Because I traveled a lot. I
because
talked
they're
with the
producing what
TRT.
our people are
I talked
consuming,
with
right?
the CGT, and I really presented their all, and they all are actually busy in making narrative building about the world. You know that how the
Yes.
world are treating them, what is going on in the.
True,
But
true.
in Pakistan, unfortunately, we are not realizing it till yet so far, and this is, I've said, this is unfortunate. What can I say?
But there's no private channel in China, you know, so how can we refer to them, you know, as that they are building a narrative about
but
No,
with the
but
state,
they are
state
but
channel
yes.
is
No,
very
the editorial.
affected
I'm
now.
talking about
Yes.
the editorial policy.
Wonderful.
Where editorial policy, we have it is just surrounds with only domestic politics. Okay, what we are saying and what we are not saying.
Yes, that's
But
true.
they are actually evolving towards the foreign affairs and world politics and world diplomacy.
And there's a reason to that. Now the reason is that imagine that, you know, with the rest of the world that we are having a comparison with, the literacy rates are so high that they know about global politics. Over here, people only know about these 3 or 4 politicians, and that's what we
I
do.
mean,
We
that's
create.
not
no,
like
that's
it,
very
Shehzad.
And there's one more
opinionated.
thing
No,
about
not
it, and
at
there's
all.
one more thing, because what happens is that people have identified their roles. Now it is very important for anybody and everybody, or even a media house or a journalist themselves, to identify what role they have. So imagine I call myself, alhamdulillah, I'm a self-proclaimed statesman, you know, so no matter what happens, you know, there's not a single word that I'm going to take out of my mouth which is going to go against the narrative of Pakistan, and
Yes.
on any single day. How important it is for everybody to identify their roles and then stick with it.
Yes, because you know there is a shop. I mean, just it is like this. That when I give an example, there is a shop, and if a shopkeeper write on its shop that okay, I am selling this product, but this product is having this flaw, this flaw, this flaw, and it's expensive as well. Then how can a customer go there and purchase from there?
Exactly.
So it's like the policy which we have made, unfortunately, on TV channel. This is like in this way that they are selling the product by saying that okay, this is damaged, this is this issue. So why you are telling the world that you have these issues?
the only thing
Everybody has issues.
Yeah.
I am going China. I went Turkey.
Mashallah.
I went Syria. I went Germany. Even Europe these days. I see everywhere there are also a negative and positive both aspects.
True.
But they are not highlighting the negative aspects.
And-
They're highlighting the positive
I
aspects.
think
I
you've
th- I
given a
think-
wonderful example,
Yes.
because I do not enter that shop jiske baad likha hota udhar band hai, you know, so that's okay, you know, I'm not going to get in, but you have been the recipient of so many awards. Jotted down a few, you know, High Performance Award for hosting Best Morning Show, Benazir Bhutto Women Achievement Awards, that too twice in a year, Sinf-e-Ahan Award, the Ethical Journalism and Media
Wonderful.
Startup Award. So there, you've had a complete array of, you know, different feathers in your cap, and you've achieved it, alhamdulillah. Towards the end, what would you say to the women over here in Pakistan, that how can they contribute towards
but-
the questions that we have posed towards
Very quickly, because we're really, really short on time. Just 1 minute.
Yeah, I just summarize it that whatever whatever the situation is, whenever you are coming into the and when you entered into the media industry, you just think and be focused on one thing,
Right.
that never give up.
Yeah.
Yes, and with that, we will end up our program. Thank you so much, Ms. Rida, for coming here, for having this wonderful conversation regarding the women in media. And with that, we'll say Allah Hafiz and bid you farewell. Until next time, it's a good
Good morning. Have a great day.